Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a podcast community where music and curiosity come together through interesting conversations with the music makers of our world. I'm your host, Jason English. You can find Curious Goldfish in all the major podcast and social media platforms, and of course, we have all of our content on our website, curiousgoldfish.com. Hey guys, thanks so much for your
Hi.
time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yep.
It's
Glad
nice
to
to meet
meet
you.
you.
I'm Jason. I'm here in Atlanta. I think both of you all are calling in from Dallas. So I'll start, Salim, with you. Salim Nourallah with the Disappearing
Yeah,
Act. You're in Dallas. Is that right, Salim?
that's correct.
And
Yeah.
then,
Started out in El Paso with Bob, but yeah, been in
okay.
Dallas for a long time.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. El Paso. That's interesting. You guys grew up together, I think.
Yeah.
And then Bob Blumenfeld, you're also in Dallas. Is that right?
Yep, that's where I am, and came over here much later than Salim. Also, uh, a lifelong El Pasoan before that.
All right. That's awesome. And then, Salim, you have a third member of the Disappearing Act, John.
Yeah. Dufalo. Dufalo. Yeah. And John started out in San Antonio,
Okay.
but he's been in Dallas now for well over 25 years, over
Okay.
25 years. So yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Well, the new album came out, I don't know, a month or two ago, right? I guess what's the feedback been, on that? How are you all feeling now that it's out? Are there any surprises or any takeaways that you have from the new album, which is called An Illusion?
Yeah. Well, as far as surprises, I think it's been surprising that I think we just passed 100,000 streams on Spotify, so that was a surprise. That was really nice. But overall, it just feels really good to be back because Bob and I had released two albums under the Disappearing Act umbrella, and it looked like we might be done. And Dufalo kind of breathed a whole new chapter into our story, and just having a record out, uh, it feels fantastic. So
Okay.
that alone is been the feeling I think we're riding with. Just it's nice to have it.
Awesome. So yeah, I was going to ask you. You all are called the Disappearing Act, but you might as well be called the Reappearing Act because it's been about 9 years since your last album. I guess why now? Um, was it
I'll
just
let Bob field that.
yeah,
We
yeah,
we
I know.
actually toyed with the idea of using the reappearing act or the reappearing pact as a subsequent follow up, but decided amusement aside, we'd stay with the disappearing act. Um, I had I spent time writing. I always liked to write, and I had kind of a reservoir of song ideas that I had that I wanted to find a home and finish. And I started working with John, and he played the songs for Salim. Some of which were I had proposed for earlier Disappearing Act albums, and they just didn't catch on at that point in time. And lo and behold, we started working through some songs and decided that this sounded like the Disappearing Act. Kind of just
Okay.
fell into place.
I think I read somewhere where you had put together, Bob, you had brought Salim something like 50 different tracks or demos or some sort of guitar instrumental things, and then Salim took a subset of those and put lyrics to it. I guess I don't write songs. That seems like a lot. So I guess
Um, to me, it's not a
It is a
lot.
lot.
It's like if I've actually had to turn off the songwriting spigot, but that's just me. If I if I sit down with a guitar and have time, I will write a song almost every time, and that's just
mm,
my relationship with music, so to speak. And so I'll what so that's the easy part. The hard part is for me getting that idea, making sure I get it written down, putting it in a format where I can share it with Salim or work it up with someone like John to present something that presents an idea that someone else can really understand and work with. And so,
Okay.
yeah, there were about, I think I had about 60 songs in a
What-
pool that I had developed, and that's the genesis of this album and
I,
even the next one that we're working
I,
on.
Okay.
yeah, I might jump in with some clarifying what he's talking about because we have a kind of an unorthodox way of writing. So he says songs. I would say song ideas,
Mm.
uh, because to me, a song is a finished, vocal melody, lyrics, the whole deal. And basically, Bob is generating these guitar things. He's always had a very unorthodox way of playing guitar. It's not like a G C D thing. It's like he's working in alternate tunings and doing. So the first strange thing. So the first two albums that we wrote together, when I first heard Bob play guitar, they were just really evocative, and I started hearing melodies, vocal melodies, words, and that's the way that we started collaborating. So, and it's a kind of a process of chopping up his parts to because once you introduce a vocal melody, it can take the song in any number of directions, and he might have only played a couple bars of this one thing, but really the vocal melody needs 10 bars. So the first two albums we did, and the reason they don't sound like my solo stuff is that it was constructed in a very odd way. So Bob is generating lots of these song ideas and things. And then when Dufalo got involved, they started making fully formed instrumentals,
Mm.
bass, drums, everything, and they were really cinematic to me. When I heard them, they sounded like Disappearing Act, and they they made me want to sing over them and write words and write vocal melodies. So Bob and John did generate like a large amount of this instrumental music, which I think some of it even Bob sent to other singers.
Oh wow.
And there are a few songs that have somewhere floating around on his hard drive are other singers uh, doing things with the backing track, so to speak.
Okay.
So
Is that
sorry, yeah,
Yeah,
for
no,
the
that makes sense. I guess Salim, yeah, I forget the number of albums you've done by yourself. It's probably dozens at this point. Is this process how different is this process working with a lifelong friend in Bob and somebody else than it is to do it yourself?
well, this process is completely different than any other way I have of making music, and it's different than anybody I've worked with. So, producing a lot of bands, and singer songwriters, I haven't met anybody that is generating music this way, and so I've always found it really interesting from that standpoint because I do think that as you get on and you've made lots of records, and every artist and every songwriter has a certain way of working, and yeah, I think it's important to shake it up and to do things like uh, pushing yourself to not do the same thing over and over again. And that's where the Disappearing Act has been really nice for me because it's not like anything that I have ever done anywhere else or
Right.
would do.
Okay.
So it's a really nice combination of what Bob's bringing in, and then Dufalo, and then the chemistry between the three of us, and I don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
Agree with everything Salim said about how we do them. So, but to me, I'm hearing some of this right now. I never thought of it being an unusual way because it's the way that I have worked on all my music. So it's just that's just the way I do it. I have played in ensembles or with bands where we wrote differently, but for the last many years, this has been my process. So to me, this is the normal process.
Well, trust me, it's
Uh,
it's it's unusual because like probably have, I don't even know how many records I've produced over the last 30 years. I've never seen anyone making music this way.
Hmm.
So it's good. I'm giving you a compliment.
yeah, no, I you said something about working with a friend. To me, that's just I really enjoy spending time hanging out with Salim. As we get older, just spending time with friends is kind of an art that's almost lost on people these days. And
Yeah.
even me in my life, you get caught up in the whirlwind of everything that's going on, and as you get older, I see articles, people losing touch with their friends and having fewer friends. And one thing I'm thankful for is it's fun to hang out and work on this stuff. So even if they're shooting down my ideas and making an edit I don't want, I'm happy either way.
Well,
Yeah, it's 100% peaceful project. Like we're like Bob and John are two of my closest friends, so it's incredible. Yeah, there's no oasis. There's no oasis stuff happening here.
yeah, that's awesome. That's a good, well, maybe not such a good analogy, but I'm glad you brought that up. I actually was going to ask about the dynamic because I've interviewed a few people that are, are in the same band or they're a duo that are
Yeah.
married, right? And
Mm.
it's kind of unbelievable to me that a relationship can last if you work in music together and then have a relationship outside the work, like a marriage. I think that's a lot, but people
It
do it.
is.
Yeah, and I
I
guess I was just going to ask you all. The common feedback from those folks is, well, it's great because we can be honest with one another and we know that it's about the art and it's not it's nothing personal, and we kind of keep that out. But I guess from a friendship standpoint, I would imagine you all are able to be as honest and transparent with each other as possible to create the best outcome. I guess is that the case? And
yeah.
have you ever felt any kind of threat to the friendship?
Well, I we have there has never been a bad word between Bob and I, and we've known each other since first or second grade. There's never been a bad word between me and Dufalo or Bob and Dufalo. So it's kind of ridiculous how much harmony
Yeah,
is in these friendships. There's never been any sort of heated arguments over songs. Like Bob didn't come to me and say, "You can't do Gun Barrel City. You're insane. You're going to ruin my world." We've never. It's just, and I gotta say, I was coming out of a turbulent, first 10 years of playing music. That was a big part of my trip. Was I want to make music with friends.
hmm,
I'm not going to fight with people. I'm not going to do it. And for the most part, I've spent the last 20 years plus not doing it, just doing things like this.
right.
And because that's the way it should be. We have the best job, air quote, in the world. And there are people all over the world that would love to be doing what we're doing, spending time in studios and creating and then talking about music, like with people like you who care enough to even ask. And it's just absolutely ridiculous to have any sort of turmoil
Yeah,
involved in that. It's like, let's just enjoy this for
yeah.
what it is. It's incredible. So I have very strong feelings about that.
Bob, would you agree?
I agree. We have there can be disagreement and turbulence in other parts of our lives, and we will bring that and talk about it. But it doesn't come into. I haven't thought about these things. I feel like I'm in a therapy session right now. But yeah, to me, I actually it's like a safe place. It's a refuge. I
Mm,
really unwind and relax. Um, and so I'm I agree. I agree with everything he said. It's a good very good place for us to get to work on these projects.
One final thing is I've found that ambition in music tends to start getting people in trouble. Like
Mm.
once you introduce the notion of the success and trying to climb this ladder, or staying, maintaining your place on the ladder, or you've slipped, or and we just don't have that. So
No, that's great.
our only ambition is to make good music with each other and enjoy the time we have.
No, that's great. I guess so. Back to the process, the what you called unorthodox, and Bob, what you called normal. I guess did you, Salima, on some of the lyrics that you had? I just this is like probably a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it because
Sure.
again, it's all about being
There are
curious.
no dumb questions here.
So when you
Only
hear,
dumb answers.
yeah, when you
Yeah.
hear, well, I don't know about that, but when you hear, a track or some
Yeah.
instrumentals that he and John have provided you, does that inspire the lyrics, or on what's kind of made the album called In Illusion? Have you already been kind of stewing on some of that, and it's a matter of kind of matching it up?
It,
That's my first question, and then I actually have
yeah.
some follow up questions about some of the songs.
Okay. Well, it's a good question. It works two ways. Either I do have something that I've been thinking about, and I'm looking for the right track. And like Gun Barrel City is an example. I had that title in my head, and when I heard the instrumental track, I was really thrilled with the way that it matched up
Hmm.
with this idea of I'm going to Gun Barrel City. So and then the other way that it happens is I don't have anything
Mhm.
in mind, but I hear something that they've done, and it just triggers something unexpected. And an example of that would be I feel like Howard Hughes.
Hmm.
I was not at all thinking about him or that combination of words and a title or anything, and there was something about the music uh, and the way the implied melody of the chorus made me think of that name that led me down that path. So those are really the two very clear ways that all of this, all of the words and vocal melodies have sort of developed.
Okay. I think your previous record, I'm pretty sure obviously some of your solo stuff, but the previous Disappearing Act record, I think was the timing of that was right after kind of a relationship that ended for you, right, Salim? And that was more
Yeah.
of the tone and the spirit of that one. In terms of this, I mean, some of the themes that I kind of picked up on are, disillusionment with success and materialism. There's some isolation and
Yes.
some self-made prisons
Hmm.
that's a theme. I guess, is that intentional too? Do you have a message with this?
Well, the big difference between those two records, and it's cool that you noticed already differences, was our second album was very personal.
Hmm.
Like all of those that song was. I didn't feel like I had a platform as a solo artist to say some of the things that I was able to say on that album, just to help myself process them.
Hmm.
Uh, so it was great. But this new Disappearing Act record is very, very different in the respect that most of the songs are character songs. So, like, for example, the album starts with a series of failures. I'm not that guy singing the song. I,
I kind of
I've
was hoping
never,
he was that guy,
yeah,
but he's
yeah.
not.
Well, I'm sorry, listeners, but I've never partied with supermodels or owned a yacht, and I didn't go to school in France or whatever else that guy went through. And I'm so what I'm trying to get at is it was really freeing and fun for me to not be Salim Nourallah on every song in the Disappearing Act. And I do make appearances, by the way. I make appearances on Santorini and the last song, no matter what I do, is definitely me. But um, Yeah, I do. I think it makes the album a little more playful,
Mm,
and uh, it it was cool to do. So I
yeah.
think that kind of answers what you were saying.
Well,
But
I think too that, and then Bob, I'd be curious what you think your music sort of inspired some of this. But if I didn't know you, right, and I don't,
yeah,
at a personal level, um, it's almost you're apathetic and you're cynical to what you said earlier, the ambition part and sort of the
yeah,
life we live here in the Western world, right? So I guess
sure.
is that an intentional sort of theme or message, or is that just again were you just trying to be playful and play a character?
Well, I think we recorded a bunch of songs, and then when we looked at what we had, it did that little thread did appear,
Hmm.
and I and obviously that's reflective of how I feel. So not just the characters in the songs,
Okay.
but then so it was taking things that I do, like the guy that's singing people in the
Right.
movies has taken uh, things that I think and kind of gone even further because he's really um, cynical and deadpan
Right.
about social media and the way people are chasing these influencers and things. So if you were having coffee with me, I probably wouldn't be that worked up about it. But the guy singing that song is really making a point. So. Yeah, it's just been really fun to do
Yeah.
that in Disappearing Act because I would never do that in another project.
Bob, from your perspective, was that a surprise that it kind of took this path?
One of my favorite parts of working and writing these pieces is hearing where Salim takes them, or John for that matter. There are songs that sound very much like I'm hearing them in my head at the end of the song. It's still kind of what I conceived and thought of, but there are other times where it takes turns that really surprised me. Like there are songs that I just didn't think Salim would choose. Like um, "People in the Movies" was not a song I thought would wind up as a Disappearing Act song,
Hmm.
and I feel like Howard Hughes, that that was just not. I'm surprised when he tells me that that's the next one that we're working on, and then getting to hear him is exciting. Um, and so for me, I leave the themes to
Hmm.
our resident theme maker, and I've never been disappointed. If I wanted to hand someone a song that these are the words, that's not how this would
Yeah.
work. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I've tried
No,
it too. Trust me, not in this project. I've tried it in others, so, and I've had success but mostly not success doing that. So
yeah. Well, so this might be a socially awkward or socially, disruptive question, Salim. But so you've
Excellent.
talked about ambition, right? And
Yeah.
then pretty early in this conversation, you were quick to sort of call out the fact of like 100,000 streams, right? And that's been
Yeah.
surprising, right? So, what is the intent with the Disappearing Act? You said earlier that we just want to make good music and I just want to be with friends, right? Which is great. And like, I totally believe you when you say that. But where are the legs with this in your all's mind? Will you tour as a Disappearing Act, or is this just something that's like, okay, we're gonna make good art and put it out there, and wherever it goes, if it only gets to 110,000 streams, like we're good. You know what I'm saying? Because I think underneath all the creativity, there has to be some ambition for this to sort of get
Well,
get some traction, right?
yeah. That's so you lots of things So that was a surprise.
Mm,
That was the surprise. Ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. We could have gotten a million streams,
mm,
and it wouldn't have. probably move the dial. It wouldn't change our daily life.
Sure.
I think what matters is, I believe music is a conversation, and to have the conversation, you need someone on the other side, like
Mm,
yourself, that actually hears the music, and and there you go. You've made that connection.
right.
And often, I think the most frustrating thing in this age now, to me, is you make these connections and you don't often get to see who you've connected with.
Mm,
It could be a kid in Dubai, or it could be a grandmother in England, or they're just. I'm used to old school. You strap on the guitar, you get in the van, you go play a gig, you've
sure.
got your merch, it's hand to hand combat to me. It's like you see the whites of their eyes, and they buy the record, and they talk to you, and there it is. That's important. What's not it? It doesn't matter to me whether Disappearing Act is in arenas, or
Right.
we have 5 million streams, or it is an art rock project that we're getting kicks out of,
Yeah.
and we hope that there's some sort of conversation like we're having now. But yeah, I don't think that we've really have any grand ambitions
Right.
beyond that.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll, I'll say that, I mean, I would make this. I would participate and write this and try and release it no matter what.
Yeah.
But it does. I mean, we have ambition when it comes to, we want to make this. It means something to us,
Right.
and it does feel good that there are some people out there that are on the other side, and I get, been getting compliments, and
Yeah.
um, that 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 does. We're not without. That does feel good, and it encourages us. So there is a part of that no matter what. We're just
Okay.
not anticipating to retire, sleeping on a bed of money, um, from
What?
this. But if it
With the
Our
happened,
with
we
first
would not
spike.
be opposed.
with the supermodel in the Bahamas. Yeah. That's
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah. There you go. All right, cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. And then Salim, for you, and then Bob, I'm not saying you don't wear a lot of hats, but Salim, I know you, you write songs, you play music, you own your own record label. I think you have your own studio. You produce
Yeah,
other people's work. You probably write songs for other people. I guess what
I do.
today, where are you at first as an artist, and where do you want to be? And then of all those things that you do, like what at your core, what are you, do you think?
Well, at my core, it's a songwriter.
Okay.
Because if I dial it back to, just go way back in the time machine to the beginning of how I leading up to right now, this moment, it was the 12-year-old kid who loved the Beatles and started writing songs just to somehow make some sort of sense out of the world I was in. So yeah, that's at the heart of it all. It's just, I love songs. I listen to songwriting podcasts, thinking about songs all the time. Songs,
Mm,
songs, 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 songs.
okay.
And it's but I've also been interested in helping other people with their songs. And it's yeah, it's at the center of everything though.
Okay.
And what was the other part of the
Well, I was just gonna,
question?
like, where do you think you are as an artist, and where do you want to be?
Well, I'm very, very grateful that I'm still even doing this,
Mm,
because, like, if you really look at it, like I've never had like a hit record. I'm not Tom Petty, or insert name of
mm,
any, but I am still doing this all these years later, and I'm very grateful for having had a normal life, um, two great kids, and a awesome partner, and really peaceful life, and I can do whatever I want to do. And that means musically too, like continue to grow and develop, and uh, get, because I think. we start on these journeys. You start on a journey as a writer, as a performer, as a singer, um, as an instrumentalist, and they're not all neck and neck. Like
Yeah.
you know, you may be some people much better singer than they are a writer, or and so I'm interested in all these different journeys that I've been on, and trying to keep getting better at all of them. You know.
Okay. No, that's great. Yeah.
Little little known history. I started my original hat was I tried to be the label when Salim started, and I was not very good at that. And so he dumped me for a bigger label back then. But yeah, I've dabbled with other hats, but have found this one, and I think that's my lane, so to speak, to stay in.
All right.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
That's how good I was. That's how.
No, that's good. So you all grew up, I think, or went to grade school together in El Paso. Is that right?
Yeah, Western Hills Elementary School.
All right.
Yeah.
Where were you? The Fighting Buckaroos? What was the mascot of Western Hills?
What was Western
The
Hills?
Road Runners.
They had the nickname.
Ah, the Roadrunners.
All right.
Yes.
The Roadrunners. All right,
Yeah.
I
cool.
think it changed, but that's what it was in our era. They
Yeah.
destroyed it and rebuilt it. And we were at the original Western Hills.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also went to middle school and high school together
Oh,
too.
okay.
So we
All right.
went to
So there's
Coronado High in El Paso, and yeah,
okay.
we've known each other forever. The thing ultimately, the connection was music,
Mm,
but even though at a very young age, I played music with my brother, and we were adamant that we were going to be lifer musicians. So we were already pretty intense teenagers. Um, but Bob had cool taste in music, and I remember, and we used to talk about music, and he liked, like in El Paso, it was super classic rock at the time, and there weren't a whole lot of kids that were listening to like punk or new wave stuff. And I
mm.
remember Bob, like the Police, which actually would have been, even though they were a big band at that time in El Paso, the Police would have been like a cool new wave band. And he liked REM, and he liked other things that most of my friends were listening to, like Nazareth, or you know, Foghat, or things like that, or you know. So it definitely is. It's interesting to me that we ultimately ended up so many years later uh, playing music together, but the connection in our friendship was actually music back then, because it wasn't like Bob was like, we were playing basketball together or like football, or he was like, let's go wrestle. It was music. He was an intellectual kid. He was into music, and cooler music than what most of the other kids around us were. I'm just gonna diss on them. Yeah, I think the Police are cooler than Nazareth. Sorry, maybe some of your listeners will jump in on me on that, but
And bringing that up. I mean, the truth be told, we started writing songs many years ago, and I still have them. I mean, and Salim blew me away with some of his early songs, which
Hmm.
that we're going way back, and
Yeah.
we just never quite abandoned the idea of writing songs. That we were, I think, about 17 or 18 when we started.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, Salim, I think you've said too that even though you grew up in West Texas, you felt like sort of a misfit and kind of lived in your own bubble because
Absolutely.
your musical influences came outside of the state. But now that you've been in Texas for so long, and I'm going to oversimplify this, so I apologize, but Austin with Willie Nelson, and Fort Worth with Towns Van Zant. I
Hmm.
guess, are there now, after I guess the years and years that you've spent in Texas, are there now more influences locally for you
Well,
than there would have been 20, 30 years ago?
uh, Not necessarily, but I have. It is interesting that I've been affiliated with one of Texas's most legendary bands now, the Old 97s,
Right.
because they're like they're going to probably have a statue in downtown Dallas at some point. Um, so that's been cool. And then I've also been racking up weirdly these Texas town songs. So because Gun Barrel City now on Disappearing Act, and then I've got a song called "See You in Marfa, Texas," and then I have another one called Terlingua. But I am still not. Even though I've represented Texas now in my music, I think that uh, don't at all slot into
Mm,
Texas music. So, in the respect that I'm ultimately a son of the Beatles,
mm,
I'm part of that whole like throw in John Bryan or comes to mind or Robin Hitchcock or there's all kinds sons and daughters of the Beatles. It's a
mm.
different trip, uh, and it's not very Texas. And but I'm happy that yeah, with songs like Marfa and Terlingua and Gun Barrel City and some other things that I'm not singing songs about sitting on a park bench with an umbrella and like I'm not doing the
Sure.
British trip. Like I've
Sure.
definitely have embraced a certain side of being a Texan
Okay. Bob,
without
what's it like?
swaying it away.
Bob, what's it like for you to come back to the state that you grew up in?
No, I never really left. I did live in California for a time, but no, I've been living in El Paso. I've lived in Austin and Dallas, so I'm just a
Mm,
Texan, literally lifelong Texan. Other than a few years I lived in California. As far as the musical influences, I would agree with Salim. I'm more influenced by what I've absorbed from bands from all over, and different
yeah,
kinds of music than locally. But not
yeah.
nothing against local bands. And the amazing thing is, I lived in Austin during a period of time when it was already an emerging music hub, and just recently, and now we're talking. This was 30 years ago that I lived there. I heard an artist that was there at the same time as me, and I love this person's music, and I'd never even heard of them. They were working at a record store in Austin. I might have walked in and met them, and here it is. I hear it now, I'll mention this stuff to Salim and John. They of course know this artist because they all grew up together, and they were in that hand to hand combat Salim talked about, touring and visiting other cities and traveling, but um, it's one interesting thing about streaming, and everyone has mixed feelings about it. I have mixed feelings about it, but
Yeah.
the algorithm surprises me with little nuggets of things that you might not have and probably wouldn't have discovered otherwise.
Well,
But
asking
you're not influenced by Texas music.
that's
I would,
To
yes.
sum up the
I
answer.
never answered.
Yeah.
I'm not good at
Yeah.
answering. I apologize.
You spun off.
I went off on a tangent
Yeah.
there, which is
Yeah, I don't think that we're yeah, either of us would say
yeah,
that
yeah,
we're really by the Texas music that's,
yeah.
famous.
All right. So the inspiration for this podcast is a show called Ted Lasso. I don't know if you
Mm,
all watch Ted Lasso.
yeah.
So Curious Goldfish comes from two different scenes in that show about, you know, forgetting your mistakes and then also being curious, not judgmental. So I ask everybody this because I think it's interesting, all the different kinds of answers. And Salim, I'll start with you. But at this point in your career, of all the things that all the hats you're wearing, the music you
Yeah.
made, your family, everything, I guess, what are you most curious about today?
Curious. I'm curious about where the music industry is headed because we've kind of made this world now where all these we've devalued music to a certain point where we're just giving it away. Physical product doesn't matter that much, and you look at these numbers on your phone that are supposed to make you feel better about, your life as a musician, but it's not really real in some ways. So I'm curious about, are we going to be doing the same thing in 10 years? Is vinyl going to be completely gone, or are CDs going to come back? Are we just going to plant chips in our brains? Like, where are we going with this? It doesn't seem like anything stays too like this for too long.
Sure.
So I'm very curious about, where is music going?
Okay. Bob, what about you?
If it is your question, if it's focused on music, I'll answer it one way. If other things, I guess I can answer it. But I'm also I've been dabbling or thinking about working more with other technologies that to see where it takes my music, and um, I think it's gonna change things. And in a lot of ways, I get sad when I think about how fast things are changing.
Hmm.
Our generation, we we existed long before the internet, long before streaming, long before AI, long before all these other changes, and on the one hand, I'm afraid and a little concerned about where we're headed, yet I still find myself attracted to these technologies. And now I have a son who's old enough and he's making music and he's more technologically inclined than me, and we're kind of talking about some, incorporating new technology into what we're doing, and I'm not sure where that's going to lead.
Okay. Well, thank you. So the non-music answer, I'm curious now. What would be your non-music answer?
I mean, I have a newfound, and I'm hogging this, but I have been fascinated with the topic of non-human intelligence and UAPs and UFOs lately. I don't know why. Just I and once you start clicking on those things, you get more and more about it. And there's going to be a congressional hearing tomorrow. I don't think there'll be any huge new information there, but it's a fascinating topic to me, and I kind of get. I have a little side project where I kind of made that the core theme of my music. So
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. So we're here, on the doorstep of 2025. I guess in terms of the Disappearing Act, Bob, you alluded to the fact that there were so many songs, and you guys picked a subset of them. Is another album? You're not going to wait 9 years, I guess, for the next Disappearing Act album, are you?
no, I'll pass the baton, but we're ready. We did not include songs I'm really excited about on this album, which I questioned. I didn't. We always agree, so I said fine. But I'm really excited about a set of songs that we're working on that we're looking at releasing hopefully next year. But I'll pass that on to Salim.
Yeah, we already have half an album in the can, so to speak. So
Okay.
if Bob and John can just keep rolling with these with these you know, these songs, then we should finish it up and have something out hopefully next year.
Okay. Well, good.
Yeah.
And Salim, what about you in terms of the other projects? What else will you be working on?
Well, next year is the 25th anniversary of Nourallah Brothers, which is the one and only release that I did with my brother Ferris, and I am right now focused on getting that album out for the first time on vinyl, and then my brother and I are talking about releasing some songs as singles that have been kind of sitting in the vaults, so to speak. So I'm I'm really excited about that. And then I've got tons of solo stuff in the works. A
Yeah.
band album. I have a band called it's going to be Salim and the Philistines, and that's with Marty Wilson Piper and my friend Chris Holt and Joe
Awesome.
Reyes, three of the best guitar players I've ever played with. It's like a guitar album, and and I'm sure, a couple other projects too. But those are the big ones: the Philistines record and then Nourallah Brothers next year.
Okay. Well, perfect. Well, it was a pleasure to talk with you both, and give John my best. Hopefully, I'll
Yeah,
catch
we
him,
will.
down the road. But yeah, really appreciate your time. Congrats on the album, and best wishes on
Thanks.
the next one.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for all the great questions. That was
Yeah.
fun.
All
And,
right.
and
Thanks, guys.
thank you. I apologize for my meandering there, but thank you very much.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
All right.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, thanks for that. And then it'll take me a couple weeks to put that together.
Yeah.
Bob, are you on Instagram individually or
I
no?
am. I have a personal, not as just my personal Instagram, but
Okay.
yeah, but I
All right.
don't. Not as a musician. It's just me.
Okay. Got it. And
And
then
my
Salim, do you handle your own Instagram stuff
Yeah,
or?
I
Okay.
do. Yeah, and I'll spread it around. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like, my whole thing, this is a passion project for me. So I haven't even thought about, I don't have any ambition to monetize. I mean, I do, but I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to gain followers and all that stuff. So if I can invite you to collaborate on some clips and all that stuff, I'd appreciate it if you could
Absolutely.
do that as
Yeah,
well.
I'd be
So,
down with that.
okay. Well, yeah, no, I appreciate your all's time. I know you're busy, and it was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you again. And there's no rush on getting it edited and all. I know that takes time.
Yeah.
So, but thank you so much, and thanks for listening.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you roll into Atlanta, I'll be on the lookout. But it'd be cool to see you here at Eddie's Attic or something like that.
I'll let you know for sure. I have played Eddie's Attic with Rhett Miller, and it was one of my favorite venues that I've ever played.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance I'll be back again with Rhett.
Okay.
So I'll
Awesome.
definitely let you know.
All right. Yeah, I'd love that. All right. Thanks, Bob.
Cool.
Thanks, Salim.
Yeah. Take care.
Cheers.
Adios. Bye, Bob.
Bye.